had been dating Audrey Carlyle for 10 years. Every time I proposed to her, she would say her love for me would never change, but she hadn't had enough fun yet. She always promised to marry me and start a family after a few more years of enjoyment. On my 35th birthday, after my 99th proposal was once again brushed off, I finally kicked her to the curb. Everyone said I was madly in love with her and that it wouldn't be long before I'd be on my knees begging for reconciliation. Instead, I started flaunting my new relationship on Instagram. Later, I heard that she had stood in the rain outside my flat all night after that day. Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. Rejected again. I sighed. Aubrey Yardley, you've been a doormat for 10 years now. Do you plan on being one for life? Barnaby Saxon sneered. I looked at the flowers and engagement ring in my hand, feeling a wave of melancholy wash over me as I faced Barnaby's mockery. Indeed, how many decades does one have in life? From that night on my 25th birthday when we officially started dating, to today, my 35th birthday, the best decade of my life, an entire decade of loving Audrey Carlyle, had slipped away in the blink of an eye. I had given up on my career, disregarded my parents' feelings, and become everything I once despised, all to love her unconditionally. But what did I get in return? Nothing but an empty title of boyfriend. Honestly, you're shameless. A man proposing 99 times and getting rejected, yet still shamelessly persisting. As a fellow man, I'm embarrassed for you, Barnaby said. Barnaby was Audrey's childhood friend. They had practically grown up together. He had complained many times, even accusing me of stealing what should have been his place, always saying that if I hadn't interfered, he and Audrey would have ended up together long ago. Seeing that I remained silent, Barnaby continued his taunts. Who is Audrey? And who are you? A fisherman's son from the south, thinking he's worthy of marrying the Carlyle heiress? Have you never considered that your parents' entire year's earnings from selling fish, even if they didn't eat or drink, wouldn't be enough to buy one of Audrey's outfits? Indeed, the Carlyles were among the top real estate tycoons in York, while I was just a small-town academic from a poor background. By all accounts, we should never have crossed paths, yet by some twist of fate, we ended up together. Knowing full well there's no future, yet still struggling. You're both pitiful and detestable. Barnaby had always believed that my appearance had robbed him of his true love, and his resentment towards me had only grown over the years, often going out of his way to sabotage me. However, Audrey had never stopped him, nor had she ever said a word of comfort to me. In 10 years, she always said she loved me, but I had never felt an ounce of love from her. Suddenly, memories of the past years flashed through my mind. The people I'd wronged, the mistakes I'd made, leaving me feeling desolate and empty. Perhaps it was time to let go. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and dialed. Soon, a melodious female voice came through. Aubrey, you're the birthday boy. Where have you run off to? Her voice was sweet and sensual, mixed with the noise of a lively party. I glanced up at the luxurious townhouse where Audrey was partying with her friends, apparently unbothered by the fact that she had just rejected my 99th marriage proposal. Perhaps she had stopped loving me long ago? You're right. I am a doormat, I said to Barnaby with a self-deprecating smile, then spoke softly into the phone. Audrey, let's break up. Without waiting for Audrey's response, I hung up. As I put away my phone, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. 10 years of pent-up frustration seemed to dissipate in that moment. Barnaby Saxon stared at me in disbelief. What do you mean? What trick are you trying to pull now? I smiled nonchalantly. Don't you want to be with Audrey Carlyle? Well, I'm giving you the chance. I've dumped her. Best of luck winning your lady. Barnaby's eyes widened in shock, utterly incredulous. I merely gave him a contemptuous glance before turning to leave. For years, he'd been waiting for me to leave Audrey. Now that I had, he couldn't believe it. This man was both hypocritical and pathetic. Although I'd spent the last decade doing everything I could to be with Audrey, once I decided to let go, I did so without hesitation. The very next day, I moved out of the townhouse we'd shared for 9 years. Took 3 days to settle into my new place. During that time, I received pestering phone calls and spam texts. Barnaby even spread the news in our social circle that I dumped Audrey. Friends called and messaged on WhatsApp, asking if it was true. Some even joked that I was madly in love with Audrey and wouldn't be able to let her go. They bet I'd be on my knees begging to get back together within a week. However, throughout those 3 days, Audrey never once reached out. I had to admit that hurt a bit. She never really loved me, did she? I laughed bitterly to myself as I picked up my phone and began the process. Deleting intimate photos from Instagram, unlinking our gaming profiles, removing her from my trusted contacts, I erased all traces of our relationship without hesitation. Suddenly, my phone rang, the name Darling flashing on the screen. I watched silently as the phone rang until it stopped, only for it to start ringing again almost immediately. I didn't answer, but she kept calling. After the 6th call, I received a text. "What's wrong with you? I told you I'm not ready to be tied down by marriage yet. We've waited 10 years. Can't you wait a bit longer?" In that short message, I could feel her unprecedented anger. "It's over, Audrey," I replied. I smiled wryly as Darling flashed on my screen once more. Block, power off, remove SIM card, all in quick succession. With that, my world fell silent. Yes, it had been 10 years. We'd lived under the same roof for 9 of those years, and everything that could happen between us had happened. But every time I tried to take our relationship to the next level, proposing marriage, her answer was always the same. "Wait a bit longer. I'm not done having fun yet. Don't worry, I love you. I won't abandon you." I don't know if it was because I loved her too much or if I owed her from a past life, but after each rejection, I'd act as if nothing had happened, smiling and telling her, "It's all right, I'll wait for you forever." Over time, her friends began to mock me mercilessly. "Ha! Aubrey Yardley is nothing but a pretty face. A lowly fishmonger trying to marry above his station. How laughable. Let's be honest. Audrey just likes his handsome face. She's just playing around with him." Faced with these rumors, I'd always laugh them off. They were just a bunch of shallow people, I thought. How could they understand the love between us? But now, looking back, I realize I was the most foolish of all. The joke was on me all along. What love? It was just me, a foolish dog, deluding myself, intoxicated with my own fantasies. This intoxication lasted for 10 years, but thankfully, I finally sobered up. Resignation, travel, clearing my mind. A month later, I had completely banished Audrey Carlyle from my world. That day, unable to refuse my mother's wishes, I was dragged to a blind date. While our elders chatted happily, we 2 young people were sent out of the tea room for some private interaction. She was 3 years younger than me, working at a magazine with an ordinary but pleasant appearance. Her name was Winifred Ashworth. Perhaps due to her job in writing, she wasn't very talkative. Most of the time I spoke and she listened. Present, I really wasn't in the mood to start a new relationship. After walking a large circle in the park, feeling that enough time had passed, I suggested heading back to report our meeting. I just wanted to get it over with. However, the young lady blushed shyly and stammered for a while before saying, It's almost dinner time. Shall we grab a bite together?" After speaking, she lowered her head, fiddling with the hem of her shirt, eyes fixed on her toes, her face turning even redder. To be honest, it was my first time seeing a woman in her 30s being so shy. Looking at her bashful face, both adorable and amusing, I found myself agreeing before I knew it. After I agreed, the young lady seemed a bit excited, becoming more talkative, and even actively recommended a restaurant. I tell you, that restaurant's Sichuan cuisine is so authentic. You'll be surprised when you try it. I flashed a hint of surprise. "How did you know I like Sichuan cuisine?" Winifred hesitated for a moment, then said with a blush, "Because I noticed your gaze would often linger on hot pot restaurants and Sichuan cuisine places. I guessed you must like it." Well, observing so confidently along the way, this girl must have some interest in me. I really shouldn't have agreed to this meal, giving the young lady hope she shouldn't have. I sighed inwardly with resignation. This was a new fusion restaurant, with a beautiful environment and elegant layout. When we arrived, it was full of young couples sitting across from each other. Winifred walked while introducing me to the signature dishes here. I smiled without speaking. Ironically, Audrey and I used to come to this restaurant quite often. I knew it even better than her. To be honest, I had thought about giving up over these years, but every time I imagined leaving Audrey, I felt like my world would collapse. Yet at this moment, I truly realized that the earth would keep spinning without anyone. Life without Audrey was still my life. The sky wouldn't fall. Even being in this place where we used to come often, I felt no ripples in my heart. Barnaby, wasn't it your sister who invited me? Why are you here? An annoyed and slightly angry female voice came through, sounding somewhat familiar. My sister had something come up suddenly and couldn't make it. Audrey, since we're both here, shall we have a meal together? The man's reply was full of guilt and flattery. Audrey, Barnaby. I looked up and saw the two of them. The world really is small, running into them like this. Barnaby, put away your little tricks. And I'm warning you, this is the last time. After saying this, Audrey turned to leave. Barnaby, unwilling to give up, instinctively reached out to grab her, but was forcefully shaken off. With this shake, the bag Audrey was casually carrying flew out of her hand, and as luck would have it, hit me right on the nose. Instantly, a sharp pain swept through my entire body, and I couldn't help but cover my nose. Aubrey, are you all right? Winifred asked anxiously. Audrey stood rooted to the spot, and the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Aubrey Yardley, what are you doing here? Barnaby also recognized me, his face turning ashen with anger, just short of shouting, "Why is it you again?" Before I could speak, Audrey's gaze fell on Winifred, who was wiping the blood from my nose. Her brows furrowed in anger, her expression cold. So this is why you disappeared for a month without coming home? Home? Do I have a home? When has she ever treated me like family? Even now, after making my nose bleed, she hasn't uttered a single word of concern. I let out a self-deprecating chuckle, wiped away the blood, and calmly said, "Miss Carlyle, it's been a while." Miss Carlyle. Ha! Audrey Carlyle's eyes bore into my face for a few seconds before she turned away with a contemptuous smirk. Barnaby Saxon shot me a vicious glare before hurrying after her. After reassuring Winifred that everything was fine, I nonchalantly followed the waiter to our assigned table and picked up the menu. Winifred looked a bit uneasy but was considerate enough not to ask any questions. I planned to explain everything after our meal, so I didn't elaborate. Ladies and gentlemen, today is our monthly couples day. If you check in successfully, you'll receive a 50% discount on your meal and a complimentary juice, the waiter announced, breaking the awkward silence between us, though perhaps making it even more uncomfortable. Winifred glanced at me discreetly, not rushing to deny our relationship. As I perused the menu, I noticed Audrey and Barnaby seated diagonally across from us. In the next moment, I reached out and took Winifred's hand. It'd be silly not to take advantage of a discount, wouldn't it? A photo of us holding hands counts as checking in, right? Let's do it. Click. Table 29, couple check-in successful. May their love be everlasting and sweet as honey, the waiter exclaimed after taking a photo. With a warm smile, he left us to our privacy and moved on to the next table. Ladies and gentlemen, today is our monthly couples day. If you check in successfully, from the corner of my eye, I saw the waiter approach Audrey and Barnaby's table. Barnaby's face was full of anticipation, while Audrey's expression remained cold, occasionally glancing in our direction. Is she your friend? Winifred hesitated before finally asking the question that had been bothering her. Ex-girlfriend, I said with a smile, revealing Audrey's identity. Then I changed the subject, engaging Winifred in casual conversation. I used to think that as long as Audrey was around, she would command all my attention, and I'd be fixated on her every move. But now, with her so close, I felt nothing. Instead, I found myself engrossed in conversation with Winifred, to the point where I didn't even notice if Audrey and Barnaby had checked in as a couple or when they had left. This realization made me happy. It meant that, subconsciously, I had let go of Audrey and everything related to our past. After dinner, I suggested a walk to aid digestion, intending to gently turn down Winifred. Winifred, I'm sure you've noticed that today I was… Before I could finish, Winifred interjected, Aubrey, don't you remember me? We've actually known each other for a long time. I looked at her in confusion. Winifred's face turned slightly red, with a hint of shyness. 7 years ago, at the Westminster Music Center, you got into a fight with someone for a young girl. As Winifred mentioned the past event, I remembered that one night several years ago when I went to sing karaoke with some mates. While using the loo, a few drunken louts were harassing a girl. At that time, I was still a hot-headed young lad full of righteousness, ready to start a brawl at the drop of a hat. To better protect Audrey back then, I had spent a fortune learning kickboxing for a year. Those drunken louts were knocked down in no time. I wanted to get your contact information to thank you, but you seemed unwilling and left without looking back. As she said this, there was even a trace of resentment in her voice. Hearing this, I felt both embarrassed and awkward. At that time, I really was unwilling, 100% unwilling. Back then, Audrey was the only one in my heart and eyes. I wouldn't allow myself to have even the slightest contact with any other woman besides her. You know, when I saw you at that moment, I was truly excited and grateful. I smiled dismissively. It's not that dramatic. I just couldn't stand by and watch. Besides, it's been so many years. I'd almost forgotten about it until you mentioned it. She shook her head. No, I mean, I'm grateful that fate allowed me to see you again. At this point, she suddenly walked in front of me, turned around to face me, and gathered her courage to say, Aubrey Yardley, may I pursue you? For a moment, I was at a loss, even a bit dazed. Because of a chance rescue many years ago, this girl wanted to offer herself to me? Was this some cheesy TV drama plot coming to life? Winifred seemed to sense something and quickly hailed a passing taxi. Looks like it's going to rain. I'd better go. You should head back too. With that, she got into the cab without waiting for me to speak. As I waved goodbye to her, I saw a look of relief on her face. Watching the taxi disappear into the traffic, I felt as if I was looking at my former self. All these years, Audrey had always said she loved me, but I could never feel her love. I was so afraid that one day she would say the word breakup, that, apart from loving her madly, I resorted to self-avoidance. Every time I was about to give up, I would tell myself to hang on a bit longer. As long as we didn't break up, perseverance was victory. Thinking about those things, I thought about Audrey again tonight. When I said I wanted to go on a couple's date with Winifred, a flash of anger appeared in her eyes for a moment. From my years of understanding her, perhaps this breakup wasn't as simple as I had imagined. That evening, as I returned to my rented flat from my mum's place, I was just about to unlock the door when someone hugged me tightly from behind. The familiar scent of lavender told me it was Audrey without even having to guess. Miss Carlyle, we've already broken up. Don't you think this is inappropriate? Who said that? I never agreed to break up. The woman's domineering voice sounded in my ear, as forceful as ever. I felt utterly helpless. I forcibly separated Audrey's hands and turned to face her. However, before I could speak, my body was pushed against the wall, and my mouth was sealed by the woman's soft red lips. The attack was fierce, and I couldn't tell if she was venting her longing or protesting my actions these past few days. Enough! I pushed the woman away forcefully. Audrey, slightly panting, looked at me with both annoyance and indignation. You've really become quite something, haven't you? I was very exasperated and took a deep breath. Audrey, we're already over. Open the door. Audrey's gaze was cold, her aura soaring, her expression brooking no argument. To avoid unnecessary trouble, I opened the door, letting Audrey Carlyle in with her sour expression. Audrey, Breaking up is a decision I've thought through carefully. Can't you leave us both with some dignity? I looked at Audrey with exasperation and disbelief, but she once again pushed me onto the sofa, kissing me forcefully and tearing at my clothes. There was a time when such initiative would have thrilled me, but now I felt only disgust and discomfort. Audrey, stop it. Audrey. My protests were in vain. I finally pushed her away, which enraged Audrey. She slapped me hard across the face. Aubrey Yardley, after all these years, I've given you everything. A place to live, food to eat, everything you wanted. Is this how you repay me? A moment later, she seemed to reconsider and softened her tone. Aubrey, come back, won't you? I know you're playing hard to get, trying to force me into marriage. I promise I'll consider it. Can we stop this nonsense? I shook my head calmly. My disappointment didn't happen overnight. The breakup wasn't about Audrey dragging her feet on marriage, but because in all our years together, I never truly felt loved by her. Yes, she claimed to love me and provided me with many material things, but that wasn't love. Or rather, in her heart, she never saw me as a true partner. Essentially, I was just a caretaker and protector to her. However, Audrey was a proud woman. She would never consider my feelings or even imagine these thoughts. Audrey, we were so in love once, but at some point, your heart drifted away. Only I was foolish enough to keep holding on. I always thought that if I was good enough to you, if I loved you enough, your heart would eventually come back. But it wasn't until you refused to marry me again that I finally realized something. Some things, once gone, can never return. When love is gone, it's just gone. Who says I don't love you? How have I not loved you? What do I need to do for you to feel loved? If marriage is what you want, we can go to the register office tomorrow. Audrey interrupted me, looking down on me with disdain, her questions as domineering and forceful as ever. I sighed and looked at Audrey. You say you love me, but do you know how many times you've rejected my proposal? Audrey looked bewildered. 99 times. I continued, looking at Audrey earnestly. Before this, I always thought I could move our relationship to the next stage. But it wasn't until after I left you that I realized love isn't about material things or just getting married. You haven't loved me for years. Even if we walked down the aisle, what would be the point? In the end, I was the only one giving, while you never truly saw me as your partner. The reason you're here now is simply because you can't accept being left behind, and you're not used to life without my care. Before I could finish, she coldly interrupted me again. Who was that woman today? Some small-time editor from a magazine with an ordinary face. How could you be interested in someone like that? I have looks, I have money. How am I inferior to her? Did she think I had found someone new and was using it as an excuse to break up with her? I was speechless, which only fueled Audrey's anger. Finally, she shouted out her frustration, almost hysterically. Clearly, she had already investigated Winifred's background thoroughly. I met Audrey's gaze and said coldly, "Even now, you still don't understand why we've come to this point. You'll never understand. And what's more, in my heart, she's no less than you. In the past, I would never have given another woman a second glance. But now I was praising another woman right in front of Audrey. This completely shattered her proud defenses. Bang! Audrey, furious beyond measure, slammed the door as she left. Such a proud woman she was. With this departure, she'd probably cut ties with me for good. Wouldn't she? I looked towards the door, feeling contemplative. There was no sadness, just an indescribable emotion. I had originally planned to find an opportunity to explain to Winifred that I wasn't ready for another relationship at this stage, but the next day my mum fell ill. Winifred somehow got wind of the news and took time off work to help at the hospital. She even volunteered to stay overnight. Although I didn't want to trouble her, having a woman around certainly made many things more convenient for a female patient, so I tacitly agreed. By the time my mum was discharged, she was absolutely smitten with Winifred. She all but declared her as her daughter-in-law on the spot, and even secretly pressured me, saying that if I didn't marry her, I needn't bother coming home again. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this. Sometimes the world really is small. When my mate saw I was out of work, he pulled some strings to get me a job at his company. Little did I know that as soon as I walked through the door, I'd see Winifred hunched over her keyboard in the work area. Beautiful women as far as the eye can see. "I've taken care of you, haven't I?" My mate whispered in my ear, fishing for compliments. "I knew you were single now, so I got you in here. Don't forget to treat me to dinner later." I wanted to give him a kick. Winifred had done me such a huge favor, and I was still trying to figure out how to let her down gently. Now, before I'd even had a chance to clear things up, we were working for the same company. After that day, with me in the new media department and her in editorial, we started to see more of each other. I tried to tell her how I felt several times, but she always changed the subject. After a few attempts, I stopped trying, hoping it might just fizzle out naturally. Days passed and life gradually improved. I improved too. Before, everything I did was for Audrey. I had to prepare the breakfast she wanted in the morning, constantly check the weather, make sure she ate her meals on time, keep an eye out for any new product launches. Now, I went to work, played video games with my mates, slept in on my days off, or went home to chat with my mom. Life was so relaxed, and I was no longer living for someone else. Perhaps life was too comfortable, and fate decided to throw me a curveball. I had an accident while racing motorbikes with my mates and injured my foot. Afraid of getting told off by my mom, I only took time off work and lied to her, saying I had to go on a business trip for a while. The next day, while I was still groggy, I was woken by an urgent knocking at the door. I opened it, leaning on my crutch to find Winifred's worried face, her hands full of bags. "How bad is it? Are you all right?" I looked at her, puzzled. "Why are you here?" This time, she didn't hold back. "When you didn't come to work today and I couldn't reach you by phone, I asked your mom and she said you were on a business trip. I went to ask your manager and found out you were injured." Once she came in and assessed my injury, the worry on her face eased a bit, and she immediately busied herself making breakfast. I sat on the sofa, resting, watching her from afar as she washed vegetables, chopped them, lit the stove, everything efficient and orderly. I thought of myself how not so long ago, I was the one doing these things. And Audrey, who enjoyed it all, always took it for granted, never knowing how to appreciate it. "Auntie said you've had a weak stomach since childhood. Rice pudding and lotus seed porridge are best for nourishing it," Winifred Ashworth said carefully, testing the temperature before handing me the bowl. "Let me tell you, a stomach needs nurturing. You should avoid raw and spicy foods regularly." She continued, "A man's home is always messy." As she helped me tidy up while chattering away, I saw a reflection of my former self in her. Once committed, she gave her all foolishly and wholeheartedly, even if there was no return. I wondered if I would ever meet another girl like this, but I couldn't be like Audrey Carlyle, only caring about my own enjoyment and wasting someone else's time. "Winifred, stop for a moment. I need to talk to you about something." The girl instinctively turned her head, but upon seeing my expression, she seemed to realize something. She quickly looked away and continued busying herself, changing the subject. "Don't thank me. Just consider it a repayment for saving me before." I knew she was avoiding the issue just like I used to do, not listening, not accepting. Once upon a time, several close friends told me they clearly felt that Audrey didn't love me. She only had control and dependence. My mother also advised me that pouring my heart out to someone who couldn't give me results would inevitably leave me scarred. But I had always refused to face the reality of my relationship with Audrey, blindly giving my all, numbing myself, and remaining obstinately confused until I had wasted the best 10 years of my life. This girl was too good, good enough to make one's heart ache, which is why I couldn't hurt her. "Winifred," I wanted to say, "drink your porridge quickly." I simmered it for over an hour. It would be a shame if it got cold. I had barely started speaking when she cut me off, still not turning to face me, clearly finding it difficult to confront me. For a moment, I didn't know how to begin, so I just drank the porridge while watching her tidy up my home, her petite figure bustling about. Kind, gentle, thoughtful. How could such a wonderful girl still be single? Were the boys around her blind? After I finished eating, Winifred hurriedly took the bowl to the kitchen and began busying herself again. Aubrey, I just received a call from the office. They need me to go back and handle an urgent manuscript. I have to leave now. Remember to take your medicine and eat on time. That's how your foot will heal faster. I couldn't help but shake my head. This girl really wasn't good at lying. Had she forgotten that her mobile had been on the shoe rack the whole time? Afraid I might refuse, she grabbed a few bags of rubbish and ran towards the door without waiting for me to speak. As she opened the door, she paused for a moment, hesitating before speaking in an especially low, dejected voice. Auntie told me about your relationship with her. To be honest, I envy her. She turned to look at me, her gaze determined, her expression serious and earnest. Aubrey Yardley, promise me you'll love yourself first. You're so wonderful. It's just that she didn't know how to cherish you. Losing you is her greatest loss, and you deserve to find better happiness. I deserve to find better happiness. Suddenly, my eyes welled up with tears. Love yourself. It wasn't that no one had ever said this to me before, but I had always been obstinately confused, living like a dog in Audrey's shadow for 10 years. In these 10 years, I had lost the best of my youth, lost myself, caused my parents heartache, and missed out on so much. But at this moment, a girl named Winifred Ashworth helped me find myself again. It wasn't too late. For the next few weeks, Winifred would come to cook for me every day. She'd always rush off as soon as she finished, never staying to eat together no matter how much I insisted. Until one day, when the rain was pouring heavily, I found myself glancing towards the door several times. For some reason, I both hoped she wouldn't come and yet eagerly anticipated her arrival. Knock, knock, knock. Finally, the door sounded. I immediately hobbled over on my crutches to open it. There stood Winifred, drenched like a drowned rat, her face pale. Why did you come in such heavy rain? I asked. It's the weekend, and I had nothing else to do at home anyway. Winifred replied casually, trying to make light of the situation. My expression grew more serious. Winifred, it's pouring out there. You'd be soaked through even walking a few steps. It's only 10 degrees outside. Are you trying to catch your death? Realizing I was genuinely upset, Winifred quickly lowered her head and said weakly, I just thought you might not be able to get takeaway in this weather. At that moment, I felt angry, concerned, and upset all at once. This girl was just like me from years ago, always thinking of others' feelings, afraid of neglecting even the smallest detail. And here she was, giving her all without even the title of girlfriend. I hadn't even offered her that much. Word of my leg injury eventually slipped out through my mates, reaching my mum's ears. She arrived with my aunt in tow, ready to give me an earful. As luck would have it, they walked in on Winifred cooking for me. The two sisters were like explorers discovering a new continent, refusing to let go of the poor girl. Despite her usual shyness around me, Winifred was poised and graceful with my elders. The three women hit it off splendidly, chatting away like old friends. It was thanks to her that the scolding I'd expected from Mum never materialized. Watching the three of them getting along so well, I couldn't help but recall the times I'd brought Audrey to meet my parents. Born into privilege and spoiled by me, Audrey had always acted superior, even to my parents. She never even thanked my mum for pouring her tea. She'd avoid chatting with Mum, treating each visit like a chore, barely staying 10 minutes before wanting to leave, always wearing a cold expression. When Winifred went to the loo, my aunt grabbed my arm and whispered, Aubrey, this girl's a keeper. She's sweet, sensible, and hardworking. Don't let her slip away. I should have explained to Mum and Auntie that I had no intention of dating Winifred. But not only did I stay silent, I felt a flutter of joy in my heart. In that moment, I realized my feelings for Winifred had changed. That day, as Winifred was about to leave after cooking again, I watched her and made a silent decision. Winifred, wait a moment before you go. I need to tell you something. Can it wait? I'll be late for work, she said, trying to escape. quickly grabbed her arm. "It'll only take a minute," I insisted. "Remember that question you asked when we first had dinner together? I'm ready to answer it now." What? Winifred stammered, caught off guard. Her voice trembled, and she couldn't meet my eyes. "You asked if you could pursue me. Well, I'm saying you don't need to. Actually, from this moment on, you, Winifred Ashworth, are Aubrey Yardley's girlfriend." As the words left my mouth, I saw a mix of shock, doubt, and joy flash across her face. It was utterly adorable. "Shall we seal it with a kiss?" I teased, pointing to my cheek when she didn't respond. Winifred blushed furiously at my joke, her face and neck turning bright red. I could feel how tense she was. Even contracts need a final seal to be official. "If you don't seal it." Before I could finish my playful threat, Winifred quickly pecked me on the cheek. "There, now you can't back out, right?" she said. "I'm not so sure," I replied, winking at her before suddenly putting on a serious face. As expected, she panicked. "How can it not count? You just said I'm your girlfriend." "Because..." In the next moment, I pulled Winifred into my arms and kissed her passionately on her red lips, savoring her taste. As her unique scent filled my senses, I felt as if I'd found a priceless treasure. No, she was my priceless treasure, one I'd cherish and protect for the rest of my life. This kiss lasted until I felt breathless before reluctantly pulling away. "Because a contract needs both parties' seals. Only yours doesn't count," I said. "Oh, and we should make it public too." With that, I took out my phone, snapped a photo of kissing Winifred, and without any hesitation, posted it on Instagram. The caption read, "Sometimes, happiness is right in front of you." Within a minute, Winifred had shared the post too. We then exchanged a smile. At that moment, I understood that only love that is reciprocated is true love and happiness. In less than 3 minutes, our Instagram feeds exploded. "Hang on, Aubrey. You've only been here a few days, and you've already snagged our company's most popular female colleague. Bloody hell, Aubrey. Do you know the office is now filled with the sound of breaking hearts? Mate, you're so lucky. I'm crying with envy here." Our colleagues chimed in one after another. Some were asking us to treat them to dinner, while others had already thought of names for our future children. There were even offers to be godparents and arrange betrothals. Of course, some of my old friends were in disbelief, saying I was trying to force Audrey's hand. But I laughed from the bottom of my heart, feeling as warm as an April day. After Winifred left, reluctantly, an unknown number called. "Aubrey Yardley, how long are you going to keep this up?" It was Audrey's typical interrogation right from the start. For the past 10 years, whenever she was upset or I didn't meet her expectations, this was her tone. "So you've learned to use women to provoke me? Don't play these childish games with me. Do you really think I, Audrey Carlyle, can't do without you? You just want to get married, don't you? You just want that piece of paper? Fine, now immediately let's go to the register office. I'll agree to whatever you want." Hearing the frantic voice on the phone, my head started to ache. I thought I had made things clear that night, and she would understand at least a little. But even now, she still believed I broke up with her just because of marriage. It once again proved that we were from completely different worlds and should never have been together. "Audrey, please let me go, and let yourself go too, all right?" I said, rubbing my temples with a sigh, which only angered Audrey more. "You said you'd love me forever, no matter what." I couldn't help but laugh. "Yes, I've said more than once that I'd love you forever, through poverty and wealth." Even now, I didn't want to say anything too harsh, but I felt the need to express what had been bottled up inside. "But that was because I thought you would love me too, that my efforts would eventually be rewarded. 10 years. I've given you the best 10 years of my youth, and what did I get in return? Nothing. 10 years of devotion wasn't even worth feeding a dog. Audrey, the truth is you never loved me. You loved having a tool at your beck and call, always revolving around you. But now, I don't want to be that tool anymore." Before I finished speaking, tears were already streaming down my face. Not tears of sadness, but of joy. because I finally saw Audrey clearly, and saw myself clearly too. I had reclaimed my life, and although it was a bit late, it wasn't too late. Aubrey Yardley, have you thought about your future life with that Winifred? The never-ending mortgage, worrying about giving your children a better education, holidays being a luxury. With me, none of that would be a problem. Just like these 10 years that so many of our peers envied. That's the life you should have. Hearing these words, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. 10 years, and she never knew what kind of life I wanted. Perhaps she never even thought about it? The life I should have? Audrey, do you really think I've been living a fulfilling life these past 10 years? Aubrey Yardley, what do you mean? My words were full of self-mockery. Audrey, on the other end of the line, was clearly flustered, starting to speak without thinking, but I no longer had any interest in explaining anything. For those 10 years, for the sake of so-called love, I endured humiliation from others, lived without dignity, like a dog. No, even worse than the dog in her arms. And she actually thought that was the life I should have. Indeed, 10 years of youth wasn't worth feeding a dog. It was all a mistake. I hung up the phone and immediately blocked the number. Not long after, another unknown number called. Without a doubt, it was Audrey again. I simply turned off my phone. Before shutting it down, I received a text from her. Aubrey Yardley, please answer the phone. Let's talk. I don't believe you'd leave me for that woman. All right, I admit it, it was all my fault in the past. Can you forgive me just this once? I laughed. Audrey Carlyle, such a proud woman, actually apologizing to me. This had never happened before. I couldn't have even imagined it. But her belated apology was worth less than grass, and I no longer cared for it. In the afternoon, the sky was very dark, and it looked like a heavy rain was about to start. I glanced at the time, then grabbed an umbrella to pick up Winifred from work. Why did you come? Your injury hasn't fully healed yet. Why aren't you resting at home instead of running about? Upon seeing me, although Winifred's words were full of reproach, her face couldn't hide her delight and joy. It's fine. I'm almost completely better. Besides, it's about to rain. What kind of boyfriend would I be if I didn't come to pick up my girlfriend from work? I smiled and took Winifred's hand directly. Passing colleagues cast envious glances our way. Aubrey Yardley, can't you forgive me just once? You were never like this before. You said you'd always forgive me no matter what I did. Just as we left the office building, with Winifred's hand in mine, Audrey approached us. She had made herself clear on the phone, but I didn't expect her to come find me in person. Somehow, after not seeing her for over 2 months, she had lost her aloof and cold demeanor. I clearly felt Winifred tense up beside me, her hand in mine becoming clammy with sweat. I patted the back of her hand, signaling that everything was fine, then looked coldly at Audrey. Just consider those 10 years as me being blind and foolish. You! Audrey was at a loss for words. She wanted to get angry, but her momentum quickly faded, and she looked at me with an almost pleading gaze. What exactly do you want from me? It's over between us. I want you to stay away from me. With that, I hailed a taxi and left with Winifred, not looking back. Back at home, Winifred ordered me to rest while she went to the kitchen to cook. I sat on the sofa, munching on snacks and occasionally glancing towards the kitchen. Seeing Winifred's busy figure, although not as tall and slender as Audrey, she was absolutely lovely. At this moment, it would be a lie to say I wasn't happy and content. A clap of thunder sounded, and it started pouring. I was about to get up to close the windows, but Winifred spotted me and stopped me. If you keep mothering me like this, I'll turn into a lazy pig, I joked as I watched Winifred run out of the kitchen to close the windows. Halfway through my sentence, I noticed her freeze by the window. Thinking something bad had happened, I quickly ran over. Outside, in the wind and rain, stood a motionless figure. It was Audrey. What should we do? Winifred turned to me and asked softly. I shrugged, closed the window, and led Winifred away. We're strangers now. If she wants to stand there, let her. The rain is heavy. She'll get sick. I ruffled Winifred's hair. You're too kind-hearted. As I spoke, I dialed Barnaby's number. It's time for you to make your appearance. The rain continued, even after we finished dinner. The sky had completely darkened, with no sign of the downpour letting up. Winifred was cuddled up in my arms, eating crisps and watching telly. My phone rang. I glanced at it and saw it was Barnaby calling. I hung up immediately. I'd done what I could. The rest was out of my hands. But a few minutes later, the phone rang again. Winifred, feeling sorry for me, answered it. Audrey refuses to leave with me. Barnaby began, but I cut him off immediately. That's between you and her. Don't involve me. It's useless to call me anyway. We're strangers now. That's all. Goodbye. Wait. It's pouring rain, and she's been standing there for 3 hours. She'll die if this continues. Only you can persuade her. Please, I'm begging you. I told you, I have nothing to do with her anymore. Whatever she does is none of my business. Hearing my words, Barnaby exploded on the other end of the line. Aubrey Yardley, are you even human? No matter what, you loved each other for 10 years. How can you bear to watch her destroy herself for you? Click. I hung up and turned off my mobile, tossing it onto the sofa. Seeing that I seemed upset, Winifred became cautious. Several times she wanted to say something but swallowed her words. Finally, I couldn't bear it anymore and pulled her closer. Just say what's on your mind. You know I'm not angry with you. She looked at me and hesitated before stammering. Maybe you should go down and check on her. The rain is really heavy, and after all, you cared for her for 10 years. I remained silent for a long while before affectionately pinching Winifred's nose. Oh, how can you be so kind-hearted? With that, I stood up, took Winifred's hand, and grabbed 2 umbrellas before heading downstairs. Outside, the rain was still pouring, accompanied by gusts of wind. As we stepped out, a chill hit us, but when I looked up and saw Audrey in the rain, I realized it was nothing compared to the coldness in my heart. Sometimes, emotional coldness is the truest form of cold. I pulled Winifred closer and walked towards Audrey, sheltering us under the umbrella. I knew you still cared about me. Seeing me, Audrey, soaked to the bone, stumbled towards us. But I stepped back, holding Winifred close. A flash of bewilderment crossed the woman's eyes, followed by a look of remorse. Aubrey, I know it's too late to say I'm sorry now. Audrey covered her face and wept, her voice hoarse. But I really can't lose you. I want to be with you forever. It's been 10 years. We've spent the best decade of our lives together. No one will ever love you more than I do. Please believe me. I shook my head. Do you know why I came down to see you? It's because my girlfriend is kind-hearted and worried you might catch cold. If it weren't for her persuasion, I wouldn't have spared you a glance even if you died here. At this moment, Barnaby rushed over, glaring at me fiercely. Audrey, do you see now? He said. He's just a heartless beast. You've given him 10 years of your youth. However, this only enraged Audrey. She shoved Barnaby away, screaming hysterically, "Get out! Get away from me!" Barnaby looked anxious and hurt. Audrey, don't you understand? It's not worth ruining yourself for such a cold-blooded man. I'm the one who truly loves you. Audrey completely lost it. She lunged at Barnaby, frantically hitting, kicking, and biting him. Barnaby Saxon, shut your bloody mouth. Don't you dare speak about Aubrey like that. Not a single word. You're not worthy, and I'd rather die than be with you. Get out of my sight right now. If you keep hovering around me like a dog, I swear I'll kill you. Audrey, you. Get lost. Seeing the hatred and fury on Audrey's face, Barnaby was heartbroken. With tears in his eyes, he turned and left. In truth, wasn't he also a pitiful soul, wasting 10 years on a woman who would never love him back? Aubrey, I've deeply realized how much I've hurt you over the years. I'll change. I promise I'll make everything right. Please believe me. Deep down, I truly love you. After Barnaby left, Audrey pleaded tearfully, looking more humble than ever before. But I was no longer the Aubrey Yardley she once knew. Audrey, you've been standing down here all this time. Why didn't you come up to find me? I looked at Audrey calmly, my question catching her off guard. Given your personality, seeing me alone with another woman, you should have stormed up to catch us in the act. But you didn't. Because deep down, you've always believed that my leaving you was just a ploy to make you comply. You were afraid that my feelings for Winifred might be real, afraid that I truly didn't love you anymore. Audrey, let yourself go, and let me go too. I loved you for 10 years, so much that I lost myself, until a girl named Winifred woke me up. She told me that to love someone, you must first love yourself, and that I deserve better happiness. Now, I found my own happiness, and I sincerely hope you can find yours too. Love yourself first before loving others. I'll leave you with this advice. Goodbye. With that, I turned and left with Winifred in my arms. Ah! Behind us, in the pouring rain, I heard a heart-wrenching cry, filled with self-mockery and regret, a mix of emotions. But I had no desire to dwell on it, because there was no need anymore. Epilogue. After that day, Audrey never contacted me again, completely disappearing from my life. 3 months later, the company opened a new media branch in Bath, and I was sent there as the general manager due to my outstanding performance. Naturally, Winifred came with me. Later, we put down roots in Bath, got married, had children, and lived a prosperous life.